Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Rose Writes and I write and narrate Miraculous Ladybug fan fiction. The art in my thumbnail is by Cat Saturn. Her Instagram will be linked below in the description box. Please enjoy the fourth and final part to Love Story. Marinette, I love you. The way he looked. Wow, did he always look so handsome? Were his eyes always so beautiful? She had tried to fight these feelings for Adrien, but as she stood there being swept up in his arms, waltzing to the string quartet's melodies, she succumbed to everything. Marinette inched closer to the prince's face, lips slightly puckered, holding each other close. This was a perfect night. Every single thing was absolutely perfect until... A girl stood in a dress resembling a wedding gown, eyeing the pair down with a hard stare, her eyes shimmering with the tears she tried to hold back. Kagami, Adrien pulled back from Marinette, an arm stretched out towards his future bride. She recoiled from his touch, turning away. Save it, Adrien. If this was always your plan, why did you come this far? You could have said no. You could have... Whatever. It doesn't matter. She hurried away, the slight train of her dress trailing behind her. Kagami, wait! Adrien sprinted down the corridor after the not-so-blushing bride, rounding the corner only to be grabbed violently by the collar. The arm slammed him against the wall, knocking the wind out of his lungs. Why you? What is the matter with you? Felix? It was Felix. His cousin Felix had slammed him into the wall, stunning him. The voice yelled inches from his face. Prince Adrien may have been angry if he hadn't been the slightest bit impressed at Felix's strength. Whoa, Felix! Adrien held up his hands. How about you let me go and we talk? Felix held the prince firmly, no signs of loosening his grip. Okay. Felix's face twisted in a fit of rage, angrier than Adrien had ever seen him. Even angrier than when Adrien would smoke him at basketball when they were kids. Felix's arm twisted up, barring itself over Adrien's throat, leaving him enough room to breathe, but just barely. She chose you. She chose you! And you squandered your fortune in this life you could have had on some low-life peasant girl. Hey, don't you say that about her! Adrien said, tension in his throat. I knew you would fail. And I am so glad to bask in your failure, but don't you dare drag Kagami down with you. Don't you dare! Tears started forming in his own eyes. Felix's grip on Adrien tightened as he felt his airway closing. He pressed his arms against Felix until he crumpled to the ground, spiraling with shame and tears. Adrien also fell, gasping for air. Adrien scrambled to his feet, vision blurry, and peered down the hall. He spotted the door leading to the guest bedchamber he assumed Kagami had run into. He took a couple strides in that direction before stopping abruptly. Everything in his mind said to run. Had Felix just tried to kill him? He couldn't be sure of his intention, but still something held him back. He slowly turned. Felix was still in a heap on the floor, looking pathetic and miserable. Funny. All their lives, Felix had looked down on Adrien for his tender nature. But his tough exterior had finally broken. Felix? Adrien spoke, his voice a low murmur. Leave, Felix demanded. I will, in a moment. Adrien sat down back to back with his childhood rival. The party roared from down the hall, blissfully unaware of the events taking place nearby. Felix, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm the prince. I'm sorry I agreed to marry Kagami. There are so many things that I am just really sorry for, and... Do you mean it? Yes, I do. I never wanted this life. I want Marinette. I want whatever life we could have together. But you and Kagami, it makes sense. Kagami and I are too different. Adrien turned to look his weeping cousin in the eyes. I want you to have the life I could have had with her. You deserve it. Felix's tears had dried as he stared up at his cousin, who stood tall. I'm going to talk to her. Shouldn't take but a moment. I know I'm probably the last person she wants to see. His voice trailed off as his eyes looked towards her bedchamber. Felix gave a slight nod and off Adrien went, to face the consequences of his decisions, and to say what he should have said a lot earlier. He should have never let it get this far. He thought he was being brave. He thought he was being a leader and a future king, but he was really just scared. The heavy brass doors loomed over him, and he took a deep breath and pushed them open to find a weeping Kagami on her bed. As soon as she spied her ex-fiancé, she took off one of her stilettos, holding it menacingly, willing to release it at any moment. Whoa, whoa, Adrien said, holding up his hands. She lowered the shoe, wiping the running mascara from her tear-stained cheek. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Kagami let out an incredulous chuckle. Imagine that. A royal admitting he's wrong. I mean it. I shouldn't have agreed to marry you knowing I had feelings for Marinette. I just felt... I don't know. Trapped? She whispered, peering up at him from where she sat. Yeah. He took the spot next to her on the bed, keeping some distance. Adrien, I understand. You do? Adrien turned to her in shock. Kagami was the last person he would have expected to understand. Well, her and his father. After everything, he didn't see how she could understand. But somehow she did. Yes, and since we're being honest, my mother wanted me to marry you to unite our kingdoms. It wasn't ever something I truly wanted. I don't love you. Ouch. Well, he didn't love her either, but her blunt phrasing hurt slightly, but also made him glad. It felt strange. Adrien walked to the door, nodding slightly, cracking it open. He turned back to smile at Kagami, who returned the gesture. Thank you, Kagami. Adrien searched the ballroom everywhere, but no sign of Marinette. Surely she hadn't gone home. He hurried outside of the palace, looking frantically. The guards hadn't even seen her pass, so then, where was she? Prince Adrien just so happened to look up, and then, on the balcony, spied Marinette. She was standing in the summer air. Her hair was now in loose curls, framing her face. She leaned over, looking wistfully out at the night sky. A perfect, picturesque moment. He wished to savor this moment forever, but instead he broke the silence, drawing attention to himself. Marinette! Adrien whispered loudly. She looked around, everywhere but below her. Marinette! Adrien? She said, finally spotting him. What are you doing down there? Looking for you. I have something to ask you. His face blushed furiously. Good thing he was so far beneath her. Okay, I'm listening. She playfully leaned over the railing, trying to hear a little bit better. I could come up there, or I could... Okay, it doesn't matter. He took a gulp of air. Marry me, Marinette. What? She leaned a bit too far over the balcony, losing her balance. She didn't exactly hold the track record for being the most graceful person. Marinette screamed as she fell several feet, grasping at nothing but air. Adrien, with cat-like reflexes, dashed forward to try to catch her, but she plowed into him, knocking them both flat to the ground. Are you crazy? The ever-clumsy Marinette shouted as they were catching their breath. He laughed, rolling his eyes. I'm not the one who jumped from the balcony. I did not jump. I fell. I guess that isn't any better. Her cheeks flooded with color. She avoided making eye contact with Adrien, who looked at her with nothing but admiration, even if she was a little goofy. He helped her slowly to her feet. Let me start again. Marinette, marry me. All there's left to do is run. Run? Like, run away? But what about the throne? I'll abdicate. This kingdom is corrupt. I don't want it anymore, and part of me thinks I never did. This has always been what my father intended for me. I want you, Marinette. I want a life with you. I love you, Adrien. That's all I really know. Marinette smiled, embracing him closely. He held her tightly, a hand around her waist, another running his fingers through her hair. So, what are you saying? She pulled back slightly to look at him, her eyes meeting his as they glowed in the moonlight. Yes, Adrien, I'll marry you. Thank you so much for listening. I had so much fun with this story, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you have any other lyrical fanfiction ideas that you would like to hear from me, leave them in the comments. And as always, stay miraculous.